I got some friends that should be showing up in a little bit. But what's up, Karen? How you doing? All right. So if you click that link, YC up top, the first part of this is going to be going over how to assess a deal because we always start from there, and then we can get into structuring the deals creatively, and then we'll get into some of the entrepreneurship stuff, and depending on which friends of mine show up to some of the different platforms, then we'll get into some other things. But it's all going to be tied into real estate and entrepreneurship. This TikTok page is a new room, so I'm sorry, it's a new page for us. So we're still building it up. I think we just started it, and I think we only have about 1,300 people following us. So if you guys can share the room, that would be good. I promise that you're actually going to learn something today. I teach. I love to teach, and I don't do too much of the nonsense. As you can see from the top, my name is Otis Douglas James the third. Can you really see that? You can't really see that up there. All right. Well, I guess I'll next time I go on TikTok, I'll bring that sign a little lower. My name is Otis Douglas James the third. I am a full-time real estate investor and founder of Four Data Points Academy, where we are a real estate investing training platform. We are the only ones in the country that take you from zero knowledge and you stay on with us until you determine you no longer need to be. We make investors, we make seasoned investors. My ability to do that rests on my experience. So I come from a real estate family. Most people know that have been following me for a little while. I was 3 years old going to real estate meetings with my father. We had a real estate brokerage back in the day. We had a mortgage brokerage. In corporate, I spent the better part of 20 years in the multifamily commercial industry. I came entry level and then exited at the corporate level, overseeing $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. I had a notary signing agent company, a national notary signing agent company. I've done some things on the non-real estate side. I took $585 one day and created a company that went on to generate seven figures. And I was surprised nobody ever challenged that. So for a few years I kept every single check stub because I always expected somebody to say, "How you take $585 and make seven figures?" So I had this big stack of stubs that I used to keep that I don't keep anymore. But I utilize the outsourcing business model, which is a business model where you basically market yourself as doing a particular thing. In this case, it was non-real estate related. And I just hired the companies that were already doing it, and I leveraged my relationships and marked the price up 40 and 50%. So that company required about 3 hours worth of work a month, maybe some months 4 hours, some months 2 hours. It was really, really easy, and it came really, really fast. Be careful when you guys grow something really, really fast because you start spending money like a drug dealer. I'm a long-term hold investor. I'm a licensed, I don't know if I said this, I'm a licensed real estate broker in California. I'm a licensed real estate broker in Georgia. I consult on development projects. I've consulted on development projects here in the States. I've consulted on projects in the countries of Senegal, Gambia. Most of you guys, if you look at my social media, you'll see me in Africa, sitting around some tables with with what looked like some very important people. I had a meeting with the Minister of Interior over there, which is the equivalent of the Vice President of the country, about a project over there, and then I was consulting on a bunch of other projects while I was there. I'm a long-term hold investor. I invest all over the country. I teach people how to invest all over the country. I teach people how to invest when they're working a full-time job. I teach people how to invest when they've got kids and a life and all of these things, and they can't fly all over the country. And I have to look at them until they succeed. So this is not a program where you start it and you finish it. It is not a course. I do not sell courses. I don't think courses are effective enough to turn you into a seasoned real estate investor. Do I have a course? I have one built in for my students as a study tool, but it's not something that I sell to the general public. But, if they wake up at 2 in the morning and they want to remember what I said about seller financing or being able to buy homes and pay out of your exit strategy, they can just log into the portal and go over the lessons and videos and all that good stuff. So we are going to be the largest training platform in the country. It's not about if, it's about when. So we're in the process of scaling up at the moment. So I teach 90% of the classes. And, there's some other folks that will teach some class, but it's hard for me to let go. So all of our classes are live, and people can come back to class as much as they like. Where we start is teaching people how to protect themselves in the real estate space. Like as a real estate investor, when you're new, most people focus on the wrong things. So the 4 Data Points Academy was built off of 4 questions. It is a learning tool. It helps you focus and it forces new real estate investors to ask questions that they may not have known to ask, to uncover information that they may not have known to ask about. Those 4 questions are: what is the cost? What is the cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? So I'm going to go over the 4 data points. Then we'll get into getting into structuring deals creatively, and then we can get into some of the seller financing stuff. The stuff that I'm going to go over this morning is going to be things that you have to pay for elsewhere. So if you were thinking about taking a course or going to a workshop, by all means, learning is never a bad thing, but just be careful how much you pay for it. If you're taking a course, it shouldn't be more than, 300-400 bucks. That number changes all the time, right? It shouldn't be more than 300-400 bucks, depending on what it is. If let's say you're taking a tax deed course, I'm not talking about tax deed mentorship. I'm talking about a actual course. That should be maybe a couple $100, maybe 2, 3, maybe $400, depending on where you're getting it from. So that's a course, not a mentorship. I know. So I have friends that have tax deed mentorship course or what things, right? Not courses, but mentorship. It's different. So I'm not, shading any of those folks. Just understand, I know what it takes to be an effective real estate investor. And one of the things that it takes is you need to be able to understand all the strategies and think of a strategy as a tool, and just understand that different scenarios are going to require different tools. The more tools you have, the more equipped you are to meet your financial objective as it pertains to a particular real estate investing scenario. Now we're also going to get into the entrepreneur stuff too. And there's a lot of overlap when it comes to real estate investing, because real estate investing is great. It's really just a skill, but ultimately where real estate investing overlaps with entrepreneurship is eventually, as a real estate investor, you have to have a real estate investing business that you can step away from. So let me see, opinions on mobile homes. If it passes the 4 data points. Yeah. So it's not a matter of, does it pass the 4 data points? So the 4 data points are 4 questions to let you know, does it work for you? It's not always determining, is this a good deal or is this a bad deal? It's, does this deal work for you? So what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? So mobile homes, let's call that an asset class. And mobile homes typically are cash cows, really, really low cost to get into. You're not looking for appreciation or equity. You're just, you can drop $5,000 on a mobile home. You probably put another $3,000 or $4,000 into it to make it livable, and maybe you get $500 a month. That's typically what that is. When I'm looking at mobile homes, they are good cash flow sources, but the quantity of mobile homes is more important than, how much cash one of them makes, right? So I would typically look at a mobile home park and then ask those questions, okay, what does this cost? What does this cost to improve, if it requires any improvement? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Now, the reason why I want to know how much it's going to be worth when I'm done is because I'm going to leverage that. So let's say I buy something, I fix it up, and after I'm done with it, it is worth, it's worth, let's say $100,000. I'm going to leverage that, and I want to get all my money back out of the deal. So if I have a finished product that's now worth 100,000, I'm going to get some financing, permanent financing for that, typically 80% of the value. So that new $80,000 mortgage needs to be enough to cover what I paid for it, cover the improvements, and give me a little something left over, like cash out refinance, give me a little something left over. So in that scenario, I got back all the money that I put in. I now have a cash flowing asset, and it's generating enough cash to be able to service the debt. Can you cash out refi on a mobile home? Typically, no. Those are all, you would probably pay cash for those, because it's not you're not going to get somebody to lend on that. It's not really considered real estate in most instances. Hey, what's going on, Karen? How you doing? Did you have a question?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
You just want to be next to me?
Sure.
Come on in. Come on in, Karen. Take your shoes off. You want something to drink? Or are you okay? You want something to drink?
I'm cool.
You're good? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let me know if you need anything. I'm here for you.
Okay.
Amen. Amen. Shout out to Karen. She's in our real estate family. Can you cash out refi on a mobile home? Okay, yeah, I already answered that one. Yeah, so no, you wouldn't buy a mobile home to do cash out refinances. But again, if you're talking about one mobile home, it's probably not going to be worth the time and energy. I couldn't justify the time to own it, rent it out, manage it. It wouldn't be big enough for me to hire a property manager to manage it. But again, do what you can where you are with what you have. Right? There's certain investments that I wouldn't take advantage of today, but there may be some investments that I'd take, at a different time. I probably would. Hey, James, we're over on Clubhouse and TikTok, man. So I think the sound is going to be better if you want to jump over to Clubhouse, like back in the day, and so I can get your input on this thing. You guys on Clubhouse that just joined us, the 4 data points guide that I'm getting ready to go over is actually at that link up top. So if you want your own copy, then you're more than welcome to download it if you don't already have it. I know some of you guys have been following me for a while, so you probably already have it. All right. So feel free, and I'll keep glancing. I'm looking at TikTok. I'm looking at Clubhouse, and so if there's questions that pop up, if you guys see me, my eyes kind of all over the place. No, I'm not high. I'm just looking at all the different screens. All right. So what about buying a couple acres and building your own mobile home park? So you probably so let's look at it again. So that's a good question. So what if you just buy land? What does it cost? All right. Well, what's the cost of the land? What is the cost to fix up? Okay. What's the cost of improvements? If you are going to make improvements, keep in mind if it's raw land, you've got a lot of soft costs, and you may have to go through the entitlement process, and you may have to bring utilities. And are you going to have amenities on this land for these mobile homes? Are you going to have an office there? So what does it cost to fix up? And then what's it going to be worth when you're done? So are these improvements going to increase the actual value of the land? It may or it may not. But if it's a cash flow play, you're not really looking for improvements. But if you plan on financing it, typically the financing that we use to do these things is expensive. We use bridge financing so that we can exit, and that exit would be bringing in permanent financing. But when you bring in permanent financing, that permanent financing is only going to equal typically about 80% of what the value is. So if that 80% isn't enough to cover what you spent to purchase it and what you spent to fix it up, then you're going to have to come in with the difference. And then how much income can it generate? Well, if it's a cash flow play, data point number 4 is what you should be most interested in. How much income is it going to make every single month? And also, is that income enough to service the debt against it? So it doesn't tell you whether it's a good deal or a bad deal. It just tells you what the deal is, and you can determine whether or not that's good for you. Me, for example, my buy box changes, right? There may be some deals that aren't really interesting to me, or maybe I can't justify the time, or maybe it's not generating enough income for me to get excited about. But then something goes bad over here, right? Maybe I got another project that's got some overruns, and I need to generate some capital somewhere. Then I'll go back and do a deal I wouldn't normally do just to get an infusion of cash into my operation so I can move forward. So it's really just to protect yourself. It's a learning tool, shows you where to focus, and it removes the emotional component of real estate investing. So I always start with the 4 data points. Dropping a lot of jewels this morning. Appreciate it. That's what's up, YC. I appreciate it. All right. All right. What's up, Angie? Is Angie still over there in Clubhouse? All right. All right. All right. So, the reason I give away this stuff for free is so people can get a taste of real estate investing. So if they do decide they want mentorship, and the serious people typically want mentorship because they go out there and they can see all of the things that can go wrong. Now, if we have to look at all of the different ways there are to invest in real estate, I did a deep dive last week, and I could only name probably about maybe 40, right? There's just a lot of things considered real estate investing that we just don't think of. But there's probably a core 25 ways to invest in real estate. And flipping homes is not the only thing, right? Flipping homes is what you guys see on the internet, and I think it's the most glamorous. But I really manage expectations for people that want to get into real estate investing. I'm gonna tell you right now, you flip about 3 or 4 homes, you're going to get tired. There's a lot of headaches that go along with that. And my goal for everybody, especially the folks in our real estate family, is that everybody get up to apartment buildings eventually. So, does Data Point teach how to be a lender? Everything, Brandon. We teach everything. I think we're one of the only programs that teach everything. And I was a lender. I didn't say that on my intro, but oh yeah, I did. But I was a mortgage lender for 13 years, and we funded just under $1 billion during that office, during the time we had that office. So yeah, we teach everything because I don't think that you can. I see you, Morgan. I don't think you can be a real estate investor and not know how to do everything. What happens when you run up against a scenario and you don't have a tool to fix it? What do you got? You still got to hunt. So we teach people to hunt. And if, and things change over time, right? Like some people come in wanting to flip houses because that's what they see. And that's what they glamorize. Everybody got HGTV, right? HGTV is, you find an ugly house and in 30 minutes, it's a beautiful house that you can sell for $10 million to a barista from Washington and a call center agent couple with a budget of, I don't know, $12 million for some reason. You guys have been there. I like them too. But in 30 minutes, you don't get to see all of the bad things that go on with a lot of these projects. So, so what you want as a real estate investor is going to change over time, and the scenario is going to change. I've got a project right now that I have some other people going in with me on that I'm losing money on every single month. If they weren't going in with me, I would have bankrupted that entity, a long time ago. So I'm carrying a net loss of $3,000 to $4,000, not including maintenance and repairs and annual taxes and it is what it is, right? So in order to supplement that, I got to go invest elsewhere. I got to go make more money elsewhere, right? And you guys may run into the same thing at one time or another. Let me see. Where's James at? All right. All right, so let's get into these 4 questions. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? I don't mind being interrupted. Let me get some folks up here. I know we're gonna get into some entrepreneurship stuff. Get a couple. Let's see who we got here. Hold on, folks. I know on Clubhouse, I know you guys can't. I know you guys on Clubhouse can't see, but you can hear. And feel free to jump on Clubhouse. At 4 Data Points is my Clubhouse handle if y'all want to go there. All right. So let's get into these 4 questions, right? We already understand why they're so important. Keep in mind when I'm mentoring someone, the fact that there's no end date means our professional relationship goes on in perpetuity. So it's not a program where you can start and then you can finish. And then I say, all right, go be great. I know you can't become a successful real estate investor like that. I know it does. I know for a fact it doesn't work like that. I've trained a lot of people in the real estate space, and it's just there's too many things that can happen for you to be able to teach somebody everything they need to know in a few months. The knowledge that I gained was over 2 decades, and there was some things later on that I hadn't even encountered until 5, 10 years into the game, and especially when the economy takes a shift. I'll give you guys an example because you guys have witnessed this, whether you knew it or not. When interest rates were 3.5%, everybody was a guru. Everybody was a millionaire, right? All of these courses were all over the place. And when people were buying them up, the Burr method was that's the, I don't, let me not say what I was about to say. The Burr method is just a strategy, right? And most of you guys are familiar with the Burr method. You buy a piece of property, you rehab it, you rent it out, you refinance it, and you repeat it, right? Burr method. And I saw a lot of Burr method courses, and people would call me and say, "Hey, what do you think about this course?" And I would say I would try not to throw shade because I'm just not built like that. I would say, well, if that's a strategy that you want to learn, then that course is an opportunity to learn it. And I usually leave it at that. But a Burr method course, I could teach that course in 15 minutes. And the thing about the Burr method, let's talk about that for a second. It's one of the most common strategies. It's what everybody puts out there. It's a way to get all your money back out of the deal. And the problem with it is when interest rates went up, the Burr method no longer worked because the cost of money was too expensive. And when the cost of money is too expensive, that monthly obligation at the end, when you rent it out, you got a tenant in there and you do that cash out refinance, the income that the property generates isn't enough to service that debt at 7%. Whereas it may have been enough to service that debt at 3.5%. So I'm gonna break that down for you guys so you can see. I see you, Clarence. I'm gonna break that down to you guys so you guys can see how the 4 data points and the Burr method, how you can tell whether that's going to work or not. Okay. Now I'm going to I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you 2 scenarios. Okay. The first scenario is a $30,000 house. I always use the same example so we don't get stuck on the math. The more complicated, like the multifamily commercial example that I get, it's always the same. And people, when I give it on when I'm talking at a workshop or something like that, I'm just going off of these numbers and doing this complicated math in my head. And people think I'm really, really smart, not realizing I just memorized the numbers. So, so I still need 6 credits to graduate junior college if I ever go back. So, so let's manage our expectations. All right. So the first scenario is going to be a house for $30,000. And yes, they're out there. Like you can go to Milwaukee and, there's a lot of markets where you can still buy a beat up house for $30,000. Sidebar, just because the house is cheap doesn't mean it's a good deal. This is why we run the 4 data points to see if it's a good deal, see if we can exit. This also works in business too, by the way. Buying and selling businesses, which real estate brokers are licensed to be able to do. So $30,000 for the purchase. And then to fix it up, let's say it's another $30,000. And then when it's all said and done, let's say it's in a neighborhood where similar houses are selling for $100,000. And we'll say that $100,000 house, if you keep it, it would rent out for $1,000. Okay. So that's going to be scenario 1. Thank you for the folks that shared the room on TikTok. It means a lot. That's going to be scenario 1. Now we're going to go scenario 2. We have a house for $10,000. And this is actually a true scenario. This house was in a neighborhood where, well, you'll see. And there was a $40,000 improvement cost. But when it was all said and done, the house was only going to be worth $25,000. So you're going to be all in for twice what it's going to be worth when it's all said and done. And it rents out for $700 a month. So we're going to talk about the 4 data points and apply it to these 2 different scenarios. All right. Now, scenario number 1. Data point number 1, what does it cost? $30,000. What does the cost to fix up? Another $30,000. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? $100,000. How much income can it generate? $1,000. Don't worry, I'll get into the guide in a minute. You folks on Clubhouse, that link up top is to the 4 data points guide. You can go ahead and click it, download the guide. You can study this on your own. Even if I never see you again, I know you'll at least be protected when you're out there trying to do this on your own. Now, what does it cost? 30 grand. What does it cost to fix up 30 grand? So we're going to be all in $60,000. Okay. Now I know the property is going to be worth 100,000. So that's simple math. If I'm all in 60 and when I'm done, it's worth 100, well, I can sell it and I pocket 40 grand minus points and fees. We're not going to get into points and fees. So just pay attention to the concept. Now, if I decide to keep it, I'm still going to be all in 60,000. But instead of selling it for 100,000, I can do a cash out refinance for that for typically 80% of the value, $80,000. It's simple math. Also, I can get a mortgage for $80,000. That's going to pay off anything I borrowed to buy it and fix it up, plus any money that I put in. I'm all in 60, cash out refinance for 80. I pocket 20 minus points and fees. Okay. Now that $80,000 mortgage. Now we're going to data point number 4. How much income can it generate? That $80,000 mortgage is probably going to cost me about $700 a month, depending on what interest rate you got it at. $700 a month is my obligation. $1,000 a month is my rental income. I'm netting $300 a month. Put a property manager in front of it. Now I'm netting $200 a month. So I made $20,000 out of the cash out refinance, $200, $300 on the monthly cash flow. That is a deal. It doesn't tell me whether that's a good deal or a bad deal. It just shows me the numbers. And if $20,000 is worth my time to do that, I'll go ahead and execute. All right. Now, that's the Burr method. That's the Burr method in its purest form. All right. Now we're going to go over and try to apply the Burr method with scenario number 2. Scenario number 2, what does it cost? $10,000. What does it cost to fix up? $40,000. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? $25,000. Now that removes it from a lot of investors' buy box. First of all, that's such a low price. A lot of investors aren't probably going to jump into this. But let me give you the backstory for this. And I know most of you guys have heard this already. The backstory for this property is it was in Jackson, Mississippi. And what's up, Carmen? And I flew out. I had two students out there. It was a mother and son team. And this is back when we first started. People that had a certain level of support, I was so focused on making sure that they were successful. I would literally fly out to where they were, and they would, and so we could go through the neighborhood and we could analyze every single property that we come across. Right. And they can see it through my eyes. Obviously, I can't do that anymore, but it was very, very fun. And I really, really enjoyed it. So this property is in Jackson, Mississippi. Not a lot going on in this particular neighborhood. It was near Jackson State, really close to Jackson State, like walking distance to Jackson State. Now, I'll say this was Jackson State before Dion. Okay. So just keep that in mind before Deion Sanders came. So I look at data point number 1 and 2. I know I'm going to be all in 50,000. What does this tell me? This tells me that it's a $10,000 purchase. I got to pay cash for that. I'm not going to be able to get any financing for that. The $40,000 improvement, I got to pay cash for that. I'm not going to be able to get any financing for that. The reason I'm not going to be able to get financing is because the financing we use for these types of projects is based on, first, what it's going to be worth when we're done. And in this scenario, it's only going to be worth half of the money that we put into it. So most investors are going to walk away right there. The Burr method will not work here, right? The Burr method will not work here because you can't add value to this. You're all in 50,000 and you can't, and it's already worth less than 50,000. It's worth half that. Okay. So I already know this is going to be all cash, $50,000 cash. I also know that I'm paying $50,000 for something that's only worth half that. That's going to be worth half that. So why would somebody do that? So we go to data point number 4, because remember, we have to look at everything. It generates $700 a month. Well, what's $700 a month times 12? $8,400. What is $8,400 relative to the 50,000 we put in? 16.8%. So I'll write down that 16.8 and compare it to my $50,000. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see where my $50,000 is at. Where am I holding it? Is it in an insurance policy, an IUL? Is it in a self-directed IRA? Do I have it sitting in the bank? I'm going to tell you right now, wherever I have it, it's not getting 16.8% year over year. Okay. Now this 16.8% just applies to the first year. That's going to be that's your cash on cash return. But there's no debt on the property. So my return is infinite, right? Because I don't own anything on the property, maybe some property taxes, but those property taxes are only going to be based on what I paid for it. So that's going to be next to nothing. Insurance in this area is going to be relatively low, at least it was at the time. But this tells me what type of investment this is. This is a long-term hold investment, and I'm going to make my money up over time. I'm not going to make my money up in equity, right? I'm not going to make my money up with any forced appreciation through the rehab. So it's a different type of investor here. But when I ask these 4 questions, it tells me what's going to happen in both scenarios. It's going to tell me if I can get financing. It's going to tell me how I can exit out of the property. It's going to tell me whether I should flip it or keep it as a long-term hold. It's going to tell me if there's an opportunity to get some tax-free money out of this, out of the refinance, right? So that's why we use the 4 data points. It didn't tell you, it's not the end all be all due diligence on a deal. It just helps you rule it out. I can rule these out really, really quick if they're not in my particular buy box. All right. Now, so any questions about that? Any questions? All right. All right. I sure wish I had my background music here. All right. So let's go to the next. Let's go to the next topic. The 4 data points. What are they, and how do we find the answers to these questions? So I'm going to run it past you. And this is, the reason why I came up with this way to present the real estate investing education. And the reason why this is the starting point is because every real estate investment is going to involve these 4 questions, all of them. All right. What's up, Chisani? Over there on YouTube. I think you're on. Yeah, it's YouTube. All right. So let's get into it. Now, there's 3 purposes I already went over. 4 data points were created to serve 3 key purposes. The first one, to prompt the right questions. As a new real estate investor, It forces you to ask questions and uncover information you may not have known to ask about. All right. The second is it helps you stay focused. Now, I hear this all the time. So I'll get a call and who's that? Insurance with Charlotte. You said says I wish I had money to invest. This is the point I want to make. If you're seasoned enough, you don't need money to invest. I'm trying to expand you guys' perspective here on real estate investing. Most people approach real estate investing when they're new as consumers. Well, shoot, I can't even buy my own house. How am I supposed to buy an apartment building or buy, another house out of state somewhere 2,500 miles away that I can't see right off the bat? And shoot, I can barely afford to fly out there. And all of that stuff is you're approaching it like a consumer. So just keep an open mind, because when I give you the mechanics of how to do these types of investing, I'm not vague. I give you an itemized list of the steps. Like you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and you can see it unfold before your eyes, right? So just because you don't have any money, you're going to be even a seasoned real estate investor is cash poor some of the time. If I get some money, I don't keep it in the bank. I deploy that capital. It has to be doing something because it's useless in the bank. It's just depreciating. The buying power of it is depreciating every single second in the bank. What up, James? Come on up, brother. All right. All right. So that's three purposes. It prompts you to ask the right questions. It helps you stay focused. And this is what I was about to say. I see this all the time. Somebody will call me and say, "Hey, I got this real estate deal," right? And I'll say, "All right, what are the four questions on it?" Well, before we get into the four questions, and I already know as soon as they deviate from them four questions, I better sit down, because there's going to be a story or an emotional tie to this situation, right? I got money to invest. I'd rather use credit though and get the bonus points. Absolutely. So there's a time and place for everything. And I think is that the real Y seed. So I'm sorry, I can't read the name, but exactly. So there's a time and place for everything. Sometimes I'll use credit cards. Sometimes I'll use financing. Sometimes I'll use creative deal structure. I'll let the opportunity determine what I use. I do stock investing. I'm looking forward to jumping into real estate. Amen. I did stock investing too. I had just under $500,000 in the market, and then realized it's all rigged. It's rigged. I was making some money, but it was only because the powers that be let me make some money. Stock market can be manipulated, and so I pulled my money out of it. And but that's my personal opinion. People don't have to agree. And I put it into real estate. Doesn't matter what the stock market does. I know I can go touch one of my properties, and I know that rental income is going to come in, and I know that I can manage rents up over time, and I know that I can leverage it to acquire more cash flowing assets. The stock market, unless it's paying dividends, it's not in my buy box. All right, it's definitely not in my buy box. I have too little control over it, and there's too many things that can influence what happens with the stock outside of company performance. Public perception influences the market, and that's not something I'm comfortable with. Now, Grant, I'm not saying that there's money to be made in the stock market, just not my money. All right, so when someone comes and they say, "Hey, I got this deal," and they deviate from these four questions, I know that the risk is going to increase, and there's probably something that they need to be really careful of. And it usually starts like this: "Hey, I got this deal." I say, "All right, what are the four questions?" Well, all right, before we get into that, it's Deacon so-and-so down at my church. Oh boy, here we go. It's another Deacon so-and-so. If I hear one more Deacon so-and-so story, all right. So it helps them to stay focused. Okay. Anytime there's an emotional component to real estate investing, your risk increases. All right. I don't care. I could lose everything today. I'm not attached to any of these houses, to these buildings. I have zero emotional attachment to any of this stuff. I can walk away from something. If I lose it, I don't care. It's just, it's easy to make back. All right. The third thing is it acts as a quick evaluation tool. Okay. I've got a bunch of deals in my inbox right now. 90% of them are trash. I work with wholesalers. It speeds up time. When you have a real estate investing business, you'll have a process to go ahead and source your own deals. That's something I'm building back up internally. I kind of shied away from that because I've got some relationships with some good wholesalers, but it acts as a quick evaluation tool. I don't have time to run the 4 data points on every one of these properties. I just look at data point number 3 and data point number 4. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? And if that's attractive, then I'll continue with the other data points to figure out, all right, now what is it going to cost to get me there? And then once I figure that out, then I'll say, okay, now what am I willing to pay for this? So I typically look at data point number 3, and 4. We're going to go through all of them. All right. Let me see. I'm just scanning to see any questions. All right. All right. Data point number 1. What does it cost? Just like it sounds. What does it cost, or what am I willing to pay? Amen. What does it cost, or what am I willing to pay? Well, why the distinction? What does it cost if there's a number attached to it? What am I willing to pay if it's off market, or I need to validate that number? Just because there's a number attached to it doesn't mean that it's worth that. It's worth paying that. All right. Rehab. What does it cost me to fix it up? Okay. Maybe it's turnkey. Maybe it doesn't need to be fixed up. Well, guess what? That number is 0. Data point number 3. What's it going to be worth when we're done? We call that the after repair value. What will the property sell for once I got it in the condition that it's going to be in? All right. Now, I can tell you one thing. When I'm looking at these 4 questions, I'm not just looking at the questions themselves. I'm looking at the relationship between these questions. For example, I know if the cost is too close to data point number 3, what is it going to be worth when I'm done? I'm not going to be able to add enough value to get all my money back out of the deal. So that's a different type of investment, right? Whatever money I put in the deal to acquire it, rehab it, is going to stay there. Now, then I just have to evaluate, is it going to generate enough income to make it worth leaving that money in there? And I compare that to any other investment opportunities that I have. And it's not always comparing it to another real estate investing opportunity. Sometimes it's safer and more profitable to just lend on a deal. All right. So if I got, $25,000 and I just want to put it in circulation, I can lend it at 20%. And people, I give high returns, like I give flat fee returns, and not an interest rate. If I say 10%, you're getting a 10% flat fee, regardless of how short amount of time it takes. DreamWorks. Hey, Otis, I'm a wholesaler. Let me get your buy box. I'll bring you some awesome deals. Amen. And so just text me your information. It's at the top of my head over on TikTok. And, I'm not taking any deals right now because I'm really focused on my students, but deals for them. All right. We have a program within our program where not only do we find the deal for them, but we also help facilitate the contractors, the financing, all the way to exit, and they keep all the profit. So yeah, if you're a wholesaler, reach out to me, and make sure you have this guide, because when you send me deals, I'm going to ask you these 4 questions, and then we're going to validate these questions. So if you're a wholesaler and you work with me, I guarantee you're going to be a much better wholesaler than you started out with. You started out being. All right. What's going on, BJ? BJ, are you not following this room? I know that ain't the same BJ that used to come before. I know you ain't got no red ticket. All right. Talking to Clubhouse. All right. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? Just like it sounds. What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? What rental income can I get? Now, we're talking about 1 to 4 unit. You still apply these 4 data points to 5 units and above. You just interpret the answers differently. They tell you different things. So we're talking about 1 to 4 units. I have a multifamily underwriting guide where you can see how these 4 questions unfold in the multifamily commercial space. And, I think I'll do a workshop on that. Now, again, the reason why I'm sharing all this stuff for free is because I got into real estate investing because I wanted to bring it to the average person. And I didn't want people to, I didn't want people to just have to kind of trust. Well, let me see. I don't know if I should articulate it that way. I wanted people to be able to get an understanding of what it's like to be a real estate investor without having to fully commit to that life. So with these 4 questions in this guide, I have them looking at deals and, assessing these deals and educating themselves whether they know it or not. And for those that are just coming in, these 4 questions are: what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Okay. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Cost, rehab, ARV, income. All right. Now, these 4 data points are simple. It's a repeatable framework, and I use it to quickly evaluate potential deals. They help me determine whether the deal is worth pursuing by keeping my decision-making grounded in facts rather than emotions. I'm just reading off the guide, folks. A guide that I wrote, right? So I'm reading it, but I wrote it. Amen. All right. So how do we use the 4 data points? Although the 4 data points are listed in specific order, they're not always executed in that order. In practice, we typically begin with data point number 3 and 4, depending on the type of property we're evaluating. All right. So for residential properties, I start with data point number 3. What's a property going to be worth when I'm done? This is also known as after repair value. I need to see how much money I can make off this property first. Okay. That's the first thing I look at, because if there's a price next to it, the first thing that I do, I'm comparing the price with what it's going to be worth when I'm done. It's going to tell me a lot about the deal, type of financing that I can get, if I can get financing at all, right? How I'm going to be able to exit. Can I do a cash out refinance, or am I going to have to sell it? Do I want to do a flip? We keep talking about generational wealth. How are we going to achieve that if we keep selling everything? Amen. Now, for multifamily commercial properties, and by the way, folks, when I say multifamily, I mean 5 units and up. I know a lot of, there's single family homes, there's a duplex, triplex, and fourplex, which is multifamily residential. Okay. Multifamily residential is 2 to 4 units. Multifamily commercial is 5 units and up. Once you get into 5 units and up, it's a completely different ball game, right? You're playing with the big dogs now. So with multifamily commercial, we begin with data point number 4. How much income can a property generate? This is because commercial assets are valued primarily based on the income they produce, specifically the net operating income. And there's a formula that we use. I won't get into that right now. We'll just keep it at residential, and then we can get into the more complicated stuff in a little bit. All right. Now, I'm going to ask you folks on TikTok to do me a favor and share the room again, because we are growing, and we get on here, and the more people that know who we are, the more opportunities that I can create for people that don't necessarily have them. A lot of you guys know I go into communities and consult on development projects, and I'm always a voice for people that are going to be impacted by those projects. And in order for me to be a voice, I have to have enough power and influence to be a factor in these meetings. So, I'm in a good position now, but I just got my mind wrapped around the fact that I need to be, I need to be growing. All right. We need to be growing as an organization. So if you could share it, thank you. We're up to 10. Thank you. See, that wasn't so hard. I appreciate it. All right. Now, there's 2 main ways to determine after repair value, and the method we use depends on the type of asset we're evaluating, like I just mentioned. For residential properties, we just see what similar properties are selling for. All right. Now, it's not always that cut and dry. Thank you, folks. Look, we up to 11, 12. Thank you for it. Not the same person either, even though I appreciate the love. Talk about y'all that ain't shared it yet. If you don't share it, I'm gonna break into your house and start making long distance phone calls on your mama's phone. There you go. Won't he do it? All right. Residential properties, it's easy. We see what some other properties are selling for in good condition. Multifamily commercial properties, it gets a little harder because it's valued based on the income that it generates. So I have to come up with 2 numbers. 1, to determine what I'm going to buy it for. 2, to determine what it's going to be worth when we're done. In order for me to do that, I have to look at the income twice. I have to look at the current income to help me determine what I'm going to pay for it. And I have to look at the potential income to help me determine what it's going to be worth when we're done. And then we take the net operating income in both scenarios, divided by the cap rate, come up with a value. I have a separate guide for that. Okay. So if that sounds a little overwhelming, I've got an underwriting guide for that. And I can, should I get, I don't like promising to give that one away because it could be overwhelming. It just leads to more questions. But those folks that are thinking about getting into real estate investing mentorship, I will give you the underwriting guide, and you can see how we run these 4 data points on a multifamily commercial deal. You guys that have been following me know that multifamily commercial, its acquisition is the easy part. Acquiring multifamily commercial is the easy part. Making it profitable is not as easy, especially the more units you have. I'm qualified to say that because I was overseeing $650 million in multifamily commercial assets, 3,000 units here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yes, blue state. Don't be a landlord in a blue state, folks, if you can help it. Definitely don't be a landlord in multifamily commercial in a blue state if you can help it. All right. Now, what do I use to figure out what my property is going to be worth when we're done? PropStream. Now, PropStream, REI Pro, any of their competitors, they're all the same. PropStream has the best data set. I use multiple ones, but I always keep going back to PropStream. None of them are perfect. If you guys are interested in, they got a free trial for PropStream. If you are going to be a real estate investor, you are going to need either PropStream or one of its competitors. There's 4 things you're going to need as a real estate investor. This is a sidebar. When you are starting out, there are 4 things you are going to need. PropStream is one of them. Rentometer to do rental analysis is another one. A landing page or a website, you got to have an internet presence if you're going to be in business. And then eForms or Rocket Lawyer for your basic forms. All right. The more experience you have, the more basic these forms are considered to you. Right now, occasionally I'll need to bring an attorney in on something, but it's not for any of the day-to-day operational stuff that we do as real estate investors. All right. 14 people shared the room on TikTok. Man, bless you, 14 people. Something good gonna happen to y'all. Matter of fact, Lord, whoever those 14 people were, bless them today. I know you are the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. I want you to bring something on my behalf into these folks' life because they were kind enough to share my room. So, amen. All right. So, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, PropStream. So how do we figure out what a property is going to be worth when we're done? We open up PropStream, we log in. There's a section called Property Details. We put the address in. Property Details comes up. We navigate to the comparable section, and we look to see what properties sold for. Keep in mind, a lot of folks, when they're new, make mistakes when they're looking at comps. So I'll just say this: don't just look for comparables to support your argument. Okay. Look for the same comparables that an appraiser is going to look at. And it's not always an exact science, folks. We're not appraisers, right? But if I can find enough information on the comparable side to make me feel confident that my property that I'm fixing up is going to fit in that class, in that group, then I'm good. I'll move forward. In the more rural areas, you may not have comparables. And if you don't have comparables, I will stop. If I can't find enough comparables to justify what it is that I'm trying to do, I move on to the next one. Many people try to force it, many times because they've inherited something or there's an opportunity there, right? Where they were able to get something for next to nothing and they want to take advantage of that opportunity. Folks, just because you can get a property for cheap does not mean it's a good investment. Okay. Trust me. Just because you can get a property for cheap doesn't mean you can get investment. It's a good investment. If you can get a property for free and it's still not be a good investment. That's why it pays to understand all of these different strategies and the risk and be able to manage that risk, because you run the risk of getting obligated to something that you can't get out of. Amen. Amen. All right. Let me see. Let me scan for questions. Boom, boom, boom. I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're good. Thank you. Who was that? That young lady. Swin? Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. She followed me. I'm still sensitive, folks, in case you haven't noticed. Someone follows me, I get excited. Like I got a new friend. All right. So we look to see what some of the properties are selling for. That's what we do. Okay. That's how we come up with data point number 3. We are interested in figuring out what our property is going to be worth when we are done. So PropStream is a tool that is necessary. Rentometer is another one that I use to do a rental analysis. Now, let me say this. I don't just do a rental analysis to determine what income my property is going to generate. I'm a landlord. I do a rental analysis when I'm managing my renewal process. Yes, as a landlord, you should have a renewal process. You guys in our real estate family, that's the Landlord Launchpad Guide. I wrote that for you guys. I took 20 years in the multifamily commercial industry and condensed it into 20 pages for you guys. So you guys in our real estate family. What's up, Don Shay? You guys on my real estate family are that's for you. So make sure if you own property, you read that. There's a lot of systems you need in place, right? So rentometer.com gives me a rental analysis, gives me an understanding of how much I could expect to get in rent for a particular property. Okay. Brandon says, what do I think of pad split? Pad split is just a business model. Really, it's really, you're just renting, you're renting rooms. Again, if you're using pad split, you got to do the same thing. It's all about how much income that property is going to generate. Now, keep in mind, if you're doing pad split and you're renting a property by the room, you're going to have higher turnover. Your leases are going to be a little bit more complicated. You need to focus more on house rules. The context of the tenancy matters also. For example, are you just doing pad split for the sake of doing pad split? Or are you doing pad split because there's an opportunity for a student housing situation next to a school. So we have to look at all of that. So every business model or every real estate strategy has its place. People just get in trouble for using the wrong strategy or the wrong model when, they should be using another one. Right. Now, rule of thumb, if my property can't survive on a traditional lease, then I won't do it. I don't rely on a business model because things can change, right? Statute can change, zoning can change, all types of stuff can change. So I don't get into specific business models, but yeah, pad split has its place. All right. So data point number 4 is the easiest to gather. In rentometer.com, you just put in your address and it'll let you know what the median rent is, what the average rent is, what the high is, and what the low is. Easy peasy. Let's say you don't have the money for PropStream. Let's say you don't have the money for rentometer.com. First of all, if you don't have the money for those two, you're probably looking at about, $150 or a month, whatever it is. I forgot what Rentometer is. I know if you use my affiliate link with PropStream, you get it for like a few dollars off. But if you don't have money for that, you probably shouldn't be directly investing in real estate. What I would recommend if you're low on cash is learning how to put deals for other people with cash. Okay. Not learn how to be a wholesaler, learn how to put deals together. And I did a workshop on that called Investing with Friends. So if you guys were following me, and just go to my YouTube page, the YouTube page is new too, folks. Everything I'm talking about is on there for free. So if you want to, curl up with a hot cup of hot chocolate and listen to the sound of my voice talk about real estate, then you're more than welcome to hit our YouTube page at 4 data points. I probably shouldn't have did that because there's dudes listening too, and now I feel dirty. But you guys get what I'm trying to say. All right. So I do use rentometer.com when I'm managing renewals. So if I'm getting ready to have a conversation with one of my tenants and they may be considering moving out, I give them a rental analysis so that they can see what it is they can expect to pay elsewhere, and then we can have that conversation. So with the renewal letter, I send them the rental analysis also. All right. It's better customer service. I do it early enough so we can have some conversations, and I have lower turnover that way. All right. Now, for those that just joined, we are talking about the 4 data points of real estate, and I'm examining each of these data points, the purpose that they serve. They are, what does it cost, or what am I willing to pay? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? If you guys on Clubhouse, let me look over here. So you folks on Clubhouse, you can click that link at the top. That you can download the guide. Okay. Download the guide automatically. All right. Data point number 2. What does it cost to fix up? This is where people get the, not the hot cocoa, big bro. Yeah, I'm a big softie when it comes to cocoa. Right? That's the least masculine thing I do. That's why I don't like ordering from Starbucks out loud. But like, yeah, let me get a black coffee with some, can you put some whipped cream in there? Maybe a little hot chocolate if it's not too much trouble, maybe a little cinnamon. Yeah, black. All right, sorry. Where was I? Data point number 2, what does it cost to fix up? I don't know. And neither do y'all, because y'all ain't contractors. So how do we approach a real estate investing deal when we don't know what it costs? First of all, even when we know what it costs, we still don't know what it costs. I invest all over the country. If I invest in Mississippi, it costs me $12 an hour to have somebody swing a hammer. If I invest in my city here in the San Francisco Bay Area, it costs me $30 an hour to have somebody swing a hammer. Code requirements are different all over the place. Labor costs are going to be different all over the place. Material costs can be different depending on what's going on in the economy. With these tariffs, and depending on what happens, you could have supply chain issues and all other things, a bunch of stuff that can impact your rehab. All right. So I don't teach people how to be contractors. I teach them how to manage contractors. And that's so important that we spend a week just going over managing the rehab process. And we stay with that. When I'm mentoring people, it's not just teaching them, it's mentoring them in the real world when they're actually doing it, having daily conversations or weekly conversations about the project, make sure they're not making any mistakes. Maybe they run into a situation and they need a referral, and I need to call one of my contacts to come in and help them. There's a reason we call it a real estate family. And we support each other like that. All right. Now, if you walk into a house and you have no idea what it's going to cost to fix it up, you have 3 steps. The first step is you make as many observations as possible. Now, this gets a lot easier if you have a home inspection, but assume you don't have a home inspection for whatever reason, okay? Because you're going to have to eventually learn how to do what we call a scope of work. A scope of work is the basics of, let me not say the basics. On a rehab, it is like the 10 commandments. It is the backbone of your rehab. It is the number one determining factor whether or not you are going to lose money or not. The scope of work. That is your Bible. Okay. Lord, you know what I mean when I say Bible. You know I don't mean the real Bible. Y'all get it. All right. Now, step 1, just make as many observations as possible. I do the same thing when I'm turning a unit. I had a property in South Carolina. I had to fly out there, get it ready for the next tenant. So I just had my iPad. I had my little pen, and I was going to every room and taking notes, right? I would take notes. I would say, all right, okay, this room needs to be painted. Flooring needs to be replaced. I see the crown molding needs to be fixed. These light switches need to be replaced. Okay, closet doors need to be replaced. All right, that I was about to say chandelier. The ceiling fan needs to be replaced. All I'm doing is making observations. I don't have to know how much each of them cost yet. I'll give that to the experts, and I do that through the whole entire house. That's step 1, as many observations as possible. Now, when you start getting into electrical and plumbing, a new person may not know that those things need to be addressed. Okay. So when I'm getting into a rehab and I'm not going to have a home inspection, let me sidebar real quick. Let me just write down scope of work steps so I know where I come back to. All right. Sometimes I don't get a home inspection. Okay. It depends on the project, but I'm also a seasoned real estate investor. Okay. And I've messed this up before. So I'm not saying I just know everything and I've messed this up before, but there are certain times where I won't get an inspection. For example, I was looking at a 10-unit apartment building. The building inspection on a 10-unit apartment building was $4,000, $4,000. And there's no guarantee that I would have ended up buying the building anyway. So for me, I'm not going to spend $4,000, but I'll tell you what, I'll call an electrician, an HVAC guy, a foundation guy, a roofer guy, and a plumbing guy to give me estimates on what it's going to take to get it up to code. And I'll pay him $100 just for the 30 minutes of time. So I'd rather pay the $400 or $500 than the 4,000 because they are experts in the one particular field. And I know those are the 5 highest cost items to address. And that's going to save me money on the the property inspection. Now, if a property inspection is just $300 or $400, $500, I'm paying that all day, especially if I'm investing from a distance. If I'm investing from 2,500 miles away, I'm getting a home inspection because that is going to be my eyes and ears for that property. Okay. So just keep that in mind when we talk about home inspections and scopes of work. Now, make an itemized list. And then take that itemized list and put it on an Excel spreadsheet. And you want 3 columns. The first column is all of your items. The second column is for cost. The third column is for comments. Okay. So you make the observation. 2, you create the itemized list and put it in a format that you can hand somebody. And then guess what you do next? Hand it to somebody. So now you get your bids, and you get your bids based on the scope of work, not based on what they see when they come to the property. Now, you can go ahead and come to the property, Mr. Contractor, and you can go ahead and look around, and you can go ahead and tell me, you know what, I could do all this for about $50,000. Even if that's below my budget, well within my budget, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm gonna say? Okay, great. Go ahead and fill out this scope of work. See if I'm missing anything on this scope of work. And then give me an itemized list for all of these items. Let me tell you why, folks. You got to be able to pivot when things start going sideways. And if you need to pivot, you may have to remove some things or reprioritize some of the things you're going to fix up. And if you have to pivot or reprioritize and you have to remove some things from the list, you need to know the financial impact of being able to do that. If the contractor just gave you a general number on the whole thing, then you could say, man, I need to save $10,000. Okay, let me remove item number 17. Let me remove item number 14 and item number 5. So I can say that should save me about $10,000. The contractor could come back and say, oh man, I was going to hook you up. I was only going to charge you $2,000 for all three of those things. Wait a minute. You could just say that, right? But if you have an itemized scope of work, then the math is going to be evident. Hey, you got item number 4 was $2,000, and then you had item number 14 was $6,000, and then item number 17 was $3,000. So that looks like, let's go ahead and leave those as they are. We're not going to touch those, and we're going to remove $11,000 from our budget. All right. So just so you can communicate effectively, it's good to have a scope of work for that reason. Amen. Amen. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, thank you. That's nice. You don't have to say that, guys. You don't have to say that. It's fine. I love what I'm doing here. You don't have to say that. And you're handsome. Stop. You guys are so silly. Can we get back to let's get back to it. All right. Protecting yourself with inspections and disclosures. Look, folks, a property inspection is going to save you a lot of time and energy. And if you're new, I recommend getting it, right? It can save you. Follow back when you're done, OG. Looking forward to building with you. Amen, sir. I will follow you back. Text me. Oh, you can't see it, huh? Okay. I'm gonna follow you back, brother. So I'll read it. Inspections and disclosures. As a new investor, it's important to recognize that some issues with a property may not be immediately visible. Problems with plumbing, electrical system, HVAC, foundation, subflooring, and other structural components can easily be overlooked during a basic walkthrough. Amen. I got a property that we have listed on the market right now out in Georgia that we went over budget on because there was a major issue with the subflooring where you couldn't see that during the inspection because you're not taking up flooring during the inspection. So some of the things you can see afterwards, whether you have a home inspection or not, right? They're just not going to come up. And we were digging up some stuff in the backyard. We had to rip the deck out. We were creating a path to the pool, and we started digging stuff up and realized that there was some stuff buried back there that we had to dig up. So it added to the budget. All right. So there are going to be things that you miss, but you should always have room in your budget for these things, right? We call it a contingency. I'll typically do 15 to 20%. How do you check the foundation of a property? Well, it depends on the type of foundation. If it's a perimeter foundation, I can do a walk around and get a good understanding of what's going to need to be done. I don't just look at the perimeter. If I, go into the crawl space, which I don't, I'll look down in the crawl space, but I ain't going down there. I'll look at the floor joists. There's also some signs up top. If there's cracks in the walls, doors don't close all the way, the property's settling. So there's signs, but again, home inspection is going to be your eyes and ears for everything. So I'd probably just get a home inspection because I live in California. And what's up, Brian? Because I live in California, I invest outside of the country. Sometimes it's less expensive for me to get a home inspection than for me to fly out there and do what I do. All right. I'm not going to get into the inspections and disclosures. Understand this about disclosures though. When you're buying a property in the 1 to 4 unit space, there are certain consumer protection laws in place. And one of those laws, and I'm not an attorney, I'm giving you the layman's version. One of those laws is if you know something as a seller that can materially affect the condition of the property, you have to disclose it. So when I do a home inspection on a 1 to 4 unit, I always email the inspection to the seller. Why? Because if there are a bunch of things that come up on that inspection and I need to renegotiate, then I'm going to, as long as this is done during the inspection period on your contract, folks, then when it's time to renegotiate, now they have more incentive to negotiate with me or renegotiate with me because now they know everything that's wrong with the property. They can't say they don't know. And there's an electronic trail of me sending them that information. So now they have to disclose it to the next person that comes, and that's going to take more time and they're going to have to negotiate with them anyway. So I do it in good faith, but also to help me renegotiate. All right. Now, once you understand what the property is going to be worth when you're done, you understand about what it's going to cost to fix it up, you understand how much income the property can generate. Now we can determine what we're going to pay for the property. Now, many of you, let me scan for questions real quick. You ever get tired of hearing yourself talk? I do. I have to go back and sometimes I try to listen to my own live streams and I can only listen to like 90 seconds. I'm like, this dude. All right. Okay, no questions there. What's up, William? All right, what's up, Charmaine? Over on the folks over on Clubhouse. All right, Lady D, Terry, Jonathan, Ron. All right, what's up? All right. So, most of you have heard about the 70% rule. Now, the 70% rule is more of a guideline. Okay? The 70% rule is more of a guideline. So, at first glance, data point number one might seem straightforward, especially if there's a price associated with it. So, if someone sends you a deal, it's probably going to be a price there. But here's the question: how do you know that price is legitimate? So, as an investor, you are ultimately responsible for doing the due diligence on every deal. Never take someone else's word for it. Verify the numbers yourself, and that's what we're doing. So when we talk about data point number one, we're really asking, what does it cost and what am I willing to pay, right? If those numbers are in alignment, great. If they're not, our due diligence is going to help us make a decision. For on-market deals, the listing price gives you the starting point. Well, if you guys are going to, Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia and these and looking for deals, just keep in mind that you're looking for a particular type of seller. You're looking for somebody that has a lot of problems with the property and either doesn't have or want to spend the money to fix it up. So keep in mind, once a property is listed and the whole world can see it, it's a little late, right? The cat's out of the bag, all right? Now, the 70% rule is a quick guideline that real estate investors use to estimate the maximum price they should pay for the property to make a profit. Specifically, let me not say specifically, especially when flipping houses. The 70% rule is best suited for flipping houses. Now, when you get better versed in real estate investing, you understand when you can go above 70%, when you should go below 70%. But if you're at 70%, you're going to make a profit. Okay. So new investors, you can lean on this a little heavier, right? Flipping houses, 70%. And it's just a formula. And it goes like this: the maximum purchase price equals the after repair value times 70% minus repair costs. Period. After repair value, right? What the property is going to be worth when you're done, you take 70% of that and then subtract from that the repair costs. What you have left is your maximum offer price. Now, I'm just reading from my guide, folks. So this is all in the guide. You guys on Clubhouse, the link to the guide is up top. You folks on TikTok, just go ahead and text me your information. I'll go ahead and send you the guide. You can download it yourself. This guide is for everybody. It's for new investors so they don't get into trouble in my absence. It's also for people, I created it for people that are excited about real estate investing, don't know where to start. I want to teach them how to assess a deal first to protect themselves in my absence. Nico says, so as a new investor, Facebook Marketplace and Redfin and Zillow are my only leads right now. So they're your only leads because you don't have a system for generating conversations. Okay. So that's also one of the things we teach. How do you start filling your own pipeline, right? How do you find off market deals? How do you market to people? How do you have the conversation? We haven't done role playing in a minute. So I think we're going to, James, are you here? I think we're going to do some role playing on one of our next weekly roundups. Make sure everybody is well-versed in that. All right. You can be the greatest real estate investor in the world. If you don't know how to talk to people that aren't real estate investors, then you can run into some trouble. All right. So 70% rule, let me give you an example. So if the after repair value is 300,000, you calculate 70% of that, that puts you at 210,000. If the repair cost is 40,000, then your maximum purchase price is 200,000 minus 40,000. Your maximum purchase price is 170,000. So to follow the 70% rule, you wouldn't want to pay more than 170,000 for that deal. Right? Now, again, it's once you get better versed in this entire world, then there's going to be some times where you go over 70%. For example, and I already said that this is best for flips, but the 70% rule doesn't apply to long-term holds because you're going to continue making money over time. Same with multifamily commercial. It doesn't apply directly. It's a little more complicated. I wouldn't rely on the 70% rule for that because you are going to make money over time. All right. Let me see. I've got an important note here. 70% rule is a great starting point, especially for new investors, but it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. When I'm determining how much I'm willing to pay for a property, that number is influenced by the property's intended use. For example, if I plan to hold the property long-term as a rental, I may be comfortable paying more than the 70% rule allows. Okay, so I already went over this. Now, interpreting the data. We're about to wrap up in about 10, 15 minutes, folks. I'm gonna do a quick room reset right now, and then we're gonna continue this, and I'll stay on for any questions, folks. My name is Otis James. I'm the founder of the 4 Data Points Academy. It is the only real estate training program that has no end date. We are investor focused, meaning we stay in the fight as long as you stay in the fight, and we don't give up until you tell us to. And even when you're a seasoned real estate investor, the goal is that we just invest together. We got a network of people that know, like, and trust each other. We can go build some stuff. And my vision for the company is never having to leave the group for anything. We're going to source our own deals, manage our own deals, rehab our own deal, all within the group. Anything in the real estate investing world, I want to be able to accomplish internally. So once somebody comes in with us, they should never have to leave for anything. All right. All right, back to our regular scheduled programming. Interpreting the data. So now that we've gathered the 4 key data points, the next step is understanding what they're telling us. And I alluded to some of these things while we were talking. Nico says, do you also assist in setting up the business structure correctly for tax purposes? Yes, we do, but we have relationships with experts that actually do that. Some of you guys know, Dwayne and I are looking at doing something right now. We require the folks that join our real estate family to have a consult with these experts. It doesn't cost them anything because it is going to be different for everybody. So we make sure that people are set with everything. They never have to leave the group for anything. All right. All right. Now that we've gathered the 4 data points, let's understand what they're telling us. So real estate investing isn't just about collecting numbers. It's about analyzing those numbers to make a smart, informed decision. Each data point offers a piece of the puzzle, and when you put them together, they should reveal the picture of the deal's potential. So we're going to look at how to interpret different combinations of data points and what those insights can mean for your investment strategy. Now, I'm going to give you guys a test. I'm going to write down the numbers 1, and below that 2, below that 3, below that 4. Number 1, what does it cost? $150,000. Number 2, what does it cost to fix up? $60,000. Number 3, what's it going to be worth when we're done? $240,000. Number 4, how much income can it generate? We're going to $1,800 a month. Y'all thought I was lying about needing 6 credits to graduate junior college, huh? I barely know how to count to 5. All right. All right. When we're evaluating properties with 1 to 4 units, I start with data point number 3, as I mentioned before. After repair value, what's it going to be worth when we're done? $240,000. I know that if I decide to keep the property long term, I can get financing for 80% of that amount. So I know this is just me looking at the numbers. I'm doing this. I'm doing this on a napkin. I'm just trying to determine whether it's even worth my time to put an offer in on this property. So I know I can get an 80% mortgage of that value. So what's 80% of 240,000? My mortgage is going to be 192,000. Okay, I'll just write that down, put that off to the side. Matter of fact, I'm going to want to know what that mortgage is going to cost me. So I'll put 192,000 into my Zillow payment calculator just to see what that monthly obligation is going to be. Okay. Keep in mind, property taxes are based on the purchase price, not on the loan amount. So I'll make sure to adjust accordingly. So based on these figures, my total monthly expense for that $192,000 mortgage comes out to about $1,500. Now it can vary depending on, insurance premiums and local tax rates and interest rates. So to be conservative, I'm in the 1,550 range. Okay. So with $1,800 in rental income and $1,550 in expenses, this property would cash flow $250 a month. See, I just looked at data point number 4. How much income can it generate? $1,800, right? So I'm just taking notes. I know I'm gonna have a $192,000 mortgage. I know it's gonna cost me $1,550 a month. I know that I'm gonna cash flow about $250 a month. Okay. Now I got to determine my exit strategy. So let's walk through the numbers and see what they tell us about this deal. Purchase price is $150, rehab is $60. Total investment is $210 before closing costs and fees. That's my all-in cost. Before I even calculate closing costs, I'm in $210. Refinance potential, right? We already looked at that. I've already determined that the ARV is $240 and I can refinance for 80% of that. It's $192,000. We just talked about that. However, $192,000 is not enough to cover my full investment of $210,000. And I didn't even count closing costs. All right. So this tells me right now that 80% mortgage that I'm going to get is not enough to cover what I paid for the property and what I paid to fix it up. So if I want to keep this, then guess what? I got to come in with some money, because 80% on the cash out refinance, I'm going to have to come in with some money. And I'm not coming in with no money on no cash out refinance. I'm just not doing it. But why would I do it? Like, what scenario exists that warrants me coming in with some money if it's cash flowing so much that long term I'm going to recoup that, right? The cash flow is just so attractive that I'm going to recoup that. Then it may be worth coming in with some money, leaving money in the deal and coming in with some additional funds. But I have to look at how much money am I coming in with and how much additional money am I coming in with. I got to add all that up and then look at the cash flow to see if it justifies leaving all that money in the deal, okay, for a long-term investment, right? That's basic stuff, all right? Now, so if I'm a mentor and we have a mentorship program, why have I been giving this information away for free for 4 or 5 years? The reason is I want people to learn how to invest in real estate before they call me. Now, if you know zero about investing in real estate, that's all better, because you don't have any bad habits. I can take you from zero to the promised land. I love that. But when people have an understanding of real estate investing, they get to see how complicated it can be, and they have an appreciation for mentorship. If you don't know how complicated real estate investing is, you could just be like, okay, well, shoot, I can just go to ChatGPT and figure that out, right? Which I would do the same thing. So I'm not, look, and you should. You should. I would do the same thing. I've done that where, I was trying to do some different business model, one that I haven't done before for some of my properties. I was like, shoot, I'll just go to ChatGPT and figure that out. But remember, ChatGPT is garbage in, garbage out, folks. So many times ChatGPT then gave me some information. All they're doing is pulling information that's on the internet. If you ask ChatGPT what the 4 data points are, they're probably going to say something like location, some other stuff, because I've done it before. Now, I think I'm probably well known enough now that ChatGPT is probably going to be pulling from my stuff to tell you. But I want people to get well versed in real estate investing so that they can see not just what it is, but how far they can go with it. Folks, a week and a half ago, I counted 78 ways to invest in real estate. Flipping homes is one of them. There's 77 more. And in order to be a real estate investor that can make it in any area and survive in any economic climate, and that has a future in real estate investing, you need to know a lot of these different strategies. So much so that even the strategies you don't know, you need to know what material to reference should that scenario come up. And for those that are in my real estate family, they'll just call me. All right. If there's something that we don't teach directly, then I don't care if I got to bring in consultants. No one in my real estate family is going to pay for any education outside of our real estate family. So whatever it is, I don't care what the newest, latest trend is, I will master it. If I can't master it, I will bring in an expert to teach it. I will consult with that expert and create a guide. And then I may go out, put a group together to go out and actually do it. And then I will hold the person's hand that is trying to execute with that expert in my back pocket, right? But I'll be honest with you, there's not much that I don't think I've come up to, with a scenario that I couldn't navigate through. All right. So why do I do this for free? That's why I do it. I wanted to bring this to the everyday person, give everyday people the opportunity to invest in real estate. Our price points are really, really low, especially when you consider this relationship is a lifetime relationship, right? So there you go. Oh boy. I looked at my competitors. So my competitors are a distant second with respect to support. And the reason I say they're a distant second is because it costs to support people. And the longer you support people, the more it's going to cost. So, my closest 2 competitors, one charges $25,000 a year. The other one charges $35,000 a year. And their business model is you invest in their projects and there's a whole thing. I'm not trying to do all that. What you get is yours, right? So if you guys want more information on the 4 data points, the guide is up top. For you folks on Clubhouse, you folks on TikTok, the number is just text whatever. Just say, hey, send it to me or give it whatever you want to text to that number above my head, 702-710-8030. That is 702-710-8030. And I'll make sure that you get that. Even if I never speak to you again, I know that you'll be safe out there investing. I know that you're not going to get into something that you can't get out of. I know you're going to ask the right questions, and I know you're going to remove the emotional component of real estate investing, at least when you're starting, right? At least when you're starting. Well, you should do it all the time, but I know when you're starting, you're going to do it. Amen. Amen. All right, I'm gonna sit and I'm going to stay for some questions. I did want to get into some of the entrepreneurship stuff too, but first, you folks on Facebook and Instagram, I appreciate you tapping in. I'm gonna go ahead and shut the live stream off. Same with you folks on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Black Planet. I'm just kidding. Ain't no Black Planet.